I want to get you now to Georgia, where a grand jury could be delivering a fourth indictment against former President Donald Trump this week for allegedly interfering in the state's 2020 presidential election. The Fulton County panel hearing testimony today. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years, and she is expected to begin presenting her evidence any time now. Reuters has obtained a copy of the alleged indictment, and Fulton County has scheduled a press conference for later on this afternoon. National political correspondent Avijoy Burnett has been following the developing story for us and joins us now live from Atlanta. All right, Avijoy, what more can you tell us about what we can expect in the next 24 hours?
Hi, Veronica. Good afternoon to you. Well, we have had several updates since the last time I was on air here. We know that the grand jury, they've been inside the Fulton County courthouse all day today as they continue with this process. Remember that the district attorney here, Fani Willis, has been investigating alleged election interference for several months now, since recently after the 2020 general election. And now it appears as if it's in the final stages. One of the key factors that we now know about are the people who've been called here to testify in front of the grand jury. We were anticipating just one person to testify here today, a former state senator. We now know that the former lieutenant governor, he was told that his interview has been moved up to be here today instead of tomorrow. And then there's also a journalist who happened upon a group of fake electors right after the 2020 general election. He was scheduled to testify in front of the grand jury tomorrow, but he tweeted that he's been called today. So this is an indication that things could be going much more quickly here at the Fulton County Courthouse, where there's a heightened sense of security around the building, along with a possibility of an indictment coming. Take a listen to what the former president, Donald Trump, said over the weekend, as he knows that many people are watching to see what will happen here.
We did nothing wrong. We don't ever take
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't take plea deals. It's a wise guy question. You're just a wise guy. We don't take plea deals because I did nothing wrong. It's called election interference. You know what that is? Because these indictments were brought out by Biden, who can't even put two sentences together. This is Joe Biden, because he can't win the election by himself. As you know,
So that is the former president, Donald Trump, reacting to a question asking if he would accept a plea deal if there is an indictment here in Georgia, Veronica.
And Avijoy, as we look behind you, you see the crush of media, the line of media just waiting for this indictment to be handed down. But we do know that Reuters has received a potential copy of it. What more can you tell us, and who could potentially be named here?
Well, we must let you know that Reuters quickly recanted putting that out there. But of course, it started a frenzy down here at the courthouse and possibly well beyond, because so many people are watching this. Something that is very important to note about what was allegedly leaked from Reuters is the possibility of several charges. So according to this document that was leaked, the former president could potentially be charged with just over a dozen charges, but there was more than 24 charges there. So that points to the possibility of there being additional co-defendants if, it's a big if there is an indictment. And this district attorney, she's known to use RICO laws in order to go after people who she believes are involved in organized crime. And just that word, that phrase, organized crime, indicates that there could be at least more than one person involved here. We spoke with the former or current law professor here in the state of Georgia, and he says this particular case in Georgia, if the former president is in fact indicted, could be the most dangerous one for him. And here's why.
If he's reelected, he has no power over what's going on in Georgia. He can't tell the district attorney what to do. She is an elected official. She's not answerable to anybody in state government. And Georgia has a very narrow, he can't pardon himself under state law, nor could the governor. Georgia has a very narrow pardon law. There's a board of pardons.
And so this is the system of federalism that we all learn about when we're in grade school. There's a separation of the different branches of government and the different levels as well. So if there is an actual indictment here in the state of Georgia, it could be something that is much harder for the former president to circumvent. He won't be able to appoint someone, say an attorney general, or pardon himself, for example. So, Veronica, we are here. You mentioned all the media, the folks who are behind me. You can't see everybody else who's beside me. There are people up in garages and so forth. So we're all here waiting to see what will happen either today or tomorrow.
Watching and waiting. Avajoy Burnett reporting live for us from the Fulton County Courthouse. Avajoy, thank you. So if you drive by that courthouse in Atlanta right now, you will see those large orange barricades outside of the building. Also that crush of law enforcement just surrounding the area. Security has been tight around the courthouse as the nation waits to see if the former president will be indicted. One Emory University law professor says the scene is similar to what other cities have done for previous indictments and hopes that Atlanta will have the same sort of response.
There are some people who show up. There have been shouting matches, but thankfully we have not seen violent outbursts. And so I pray that that is the same thing that we're going to experience here.
District Attorney Fani Willis and her team have received threats, with Trump himself lashing out at Willis, calling her a, quote, young racist in Atlanta. So far, no protesters related to the case have been spotted, but another group protesting plans to build Cop City in Atlanta have been gathering at the courthouse this morning. Still to come on Scripps News Live, President Biden getting ready to celebrate 1 year since the Inflation Reduction Act passed through Congress. The events the administration has been planning coming up. Also, some people have been struggling to get the health care they need, including those who have their private health insurance requests denied. We're going to take a closer look at one report and who is being affected the most.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat track the hidden network of Russian cargo ships smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs and snap on any top to create an infinite number of looks. All of our glasses are anti-glare, scratch resistant, and every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
This is Mary Ann's first time visiting Paris.
Où allez-vous?
Before Mary Ann packed her bags, before she attempted her first sentence in French, she downloaded Babbel. So when it came time to tell the cab driver to take her to the Hotel Pierre,
J'aimerais aller à l'Hôtel Pierre.
Oh, c'est très bien.
Babbel focuses on natural conversation, so you can speak and pronounce with confidence.
Language lessons for every summer adventure. Get 55% off for a limited time at babbel.com/TV.
Still tying your shoes? It's 2023. Hands-free shoes are the next big thing. No more hands, tying, pulling, heel crushing. And once they're on, they stay on. Don't take my word for it. They have over 13,000 five-star reviews, free shipping, free returns, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. A style or color for every personality. Time to step up your shoe game and step into Kizik's. Get 15% off today at kizik.com/TV.
Are you or a loved one between the ages of 50 to 80 years old? If you are younger than 80 years old, do you receive Social Security, disability, or Medicare? If you answered yes, you may qualify for $30,000 in funeral insurance for only pennies a day. The average funeral costs around $11,000, and Social Security only pays $255, leaving your loved ones to pay the balance. Call now to see if you qualify for $30,000 in funeral expense coverage from Senior Legacy Life. Your rate will never increase, your benefits will never decrease, and there is no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing disease or illness. Don't be a financial burden to your family. Lock in your rate by completing an application over the phone right now. Will you qualify for funeral insurance up to $30,000 for only pennies a day? Find out by calling Senior Legacy Life.
Call 1-800-300-5808 to speak with a licensed insurance agent. That's 1-800-300-5808.
Baby, ooh, the things you do make me crazy.
Welcome back. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. More than half of Americans with health insurance struggle with getting the coverage and care they need. That's according to a survey by the nonprofit health research group, the Kaiser Family Foundation. 58% of those surveyed said those obstacles include denied claims, provider network problems, and pre-authorization problems. A new report by the Inspector General's Office of the Department of Health and Human Services shows many private health insurance companies paid by Medicaid deny millions of requests every year. And that includes Elevance Health, formerly called Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. The denial in coverage prompted this protest last year at Elevance headquarters in Indianapolis. Members of the progressive grassroots organization People's Action were protesting insurance claim denials for treatment recommended by medical professionals. And they want the company to overturn existing denials and release the process and demographics for coverage denials.
We want to know the truth about where these claim denials are happening, right? Whether they are disproportionately impacting urban or rural folks or black people, right? And it's simple as that. It needs to be known.
Joining me now is Wendell Potter. He is a former Cigna executive and also the president at the Center for Health and Democracy. Wendell, good to see you. Thank you so much for being with us. Explain to us how we got here, Wendell. Why is Elevance denying these claims, and what is the impact to both the consumer and the hospital?
I think they're doing it to maximize profits. Elevance has become one of the country's largest corporations, and it's got a very healthy profit margin. And with these big insurance companies that are for-profit, and there's 7 for-profit, big for-profit insurance companies, they're under constant pressure from Wall Street to protect those profit margins. And what we're seeing is that in many public programs, Medicare Advantage and Medicaid, these companies are denying an inordinate number of requests for treatment, far more than they're denying for people who are enrolled in their so-called commercial plans, people who get their coverage individually or from their employer. So that's what's going on. And the Office of Inspector General, which is part of the Department of Health and Human Services, did a recent report that showed that Elevance was way up there. And that's at least one of its health plans. It was denying Medicaid plans. It was denying more than 1 of every 3 claims, or not claims, but requests for coverage. And what that means for patients and doctors is that patients are not getting the care that they need in many cases. And it requires doctors to jump through more hoops to file appeals and to try to advocate for their patients. And we're seeing undoubtedly that people are not getting the care that they need. And that can be very, very detrimental to people's health.
So, Wendell, why is this happening? I mean, the passage of the Affordable Care Act was supposed to end many of these types of insurance industry denials. Why are we seeing so many claims being denied? How are insurance companies getting away with this?
They're getting away with it because federal regulators are just not paying close enough attention. When you have that many claims or that many requests for treatment being denied, that means that the people who are supposedly looking after our best interest and our money, because when we're talking about Medicare Advantage and Medicaid, we're talking about public tax dollars, our dollars, and they're just not paying close enough attention to it. And that's got to change. Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio recently sent a letter to the Biden administration with 300 members of Congress co-signing it, calling on the Biden administration to do something about that, because it is within the Biden's administration's purview to act on this. But that was for Medicare Advantage, and this is even worse. We're seeing that the denial rates in many cases for people who are enrolled in Medicaid, and Elevance manages Medicaid programs for about 20 states, that they're just making money hand over fist, and one way they're doing that is by refusing to pay for needed care.
So you're saying that insurance companies are doing this in order to maximize profits. I want to go ahead and pull up an article that you wrote, Wendell, which shows us the salaries in 2022 for the CEOs of 7 major health insurance companies, including Elevance. Can you break down how these CEOs make millions of dollars every year when nearly 100 million Americans are dealing with medical debt?
One of the ways they get paid, and it's a major way they're paid, it's not just that they get a salary. They do get very, very good salaries, but most of their compensation comes in the form of stock grants and stock options. And the better these companies satisfy Wall Street's expectations, the more that stock price goes up. And that means that these people are making much more money because of that arrangement than the rest of us do. Most of us don't have a deal like that. And these companies, Elevance in particular, is in a big dispute in Ohio and Virginia and other places with hospitals that treat a lot of Medicaid patients. And so we're seeing that undoubtedly people in those places are not getting the care that they need, but these executives are making out like gangbusters. They're just making so much money that it's, in my view, unconscionable.
Yeah, that chart showed us that Joseph Molina made $180.8 million last year. Gail Boudreau, who is the CEO of Elevance, making $24 million. Wendell, in your mind, what is the solution to this problem? What is it going to take to make healthcare more accessible and more affordable for all Americans?
Well, Congress needs to go back to the drawing board. The Affordable Care Act did take care of some problems. It did make illegal some of the practices of the insurance industry, like refusing to pay for certain treatments, or rather than not that, but they were before the Affordable Care Act, refusing to cover people at all. Now, to get around that and to maintain their profit margins, they're doing this and some other things. They're saddling people with more out-of-pocket cost than they used to. So people are having to pay more and more out of their own pockets for care before their coverage kicks in. And they're denying more claims and requests for treatment. It's really up to Congress and state legislators to pay attention, particularly when we're talking about Medicaid, because Medicaid is really run by states around the country, and they have an obligation to make sure that the people who live in those states are getting the care that they need, and that these companies are not profiteering as we're seeing.
Wendell Potter is the president at the Center for Health and Democracy. Wendell, thank you so much for your time today. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Veronica.
Still ahead on Scripps News Live, a Major League Baseball player now on the bench as officials look into his social media posts. What we've now learned about the Rays shortstop, Wander Franco. That's next.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Act now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
At first, just leaving the house was hard.
But Wounded Warrior Project helps you realize it's possible to get out there.
To feel a sense of camaraderie again.
To find the tools to live life better.
Through generous community support, we've connected warriors and their families with no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training for 20 years. And we're just getting started.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and will even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home?
Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
I'm Del Walters, and this is The Debrief.
Nearly 40 million Americans on alert.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive.
Scripps News brings you reporting from across the country
in downtown Baltimore, live in Maricopa County,
and around the world.
The counteroffensive is likely to kick off.
Scripps News, London.
With up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
Gas prices driving up once again, reaching more than $4 a gallon in nearly a dozen states. AAA says other states are nearing the $4 mark. The national average is at $3.85 right now, marking the highest price per gallon in 10 months. It's also a 2-cent increase from last week. AAA says global supply cuts by Russia and Saudi Arabia are sending oil prices up, while U.S.-based refineries have been struggling with the extreme heat. The 3-month-old writers' strike continues to paralyze Hollywood and new film and TV production. The Writers Guild of America now evaluating a counterproposal it received from the Hollywood studios and producers on Friday. Right now, there's no such movement in talks with the Actors Union. Both actors and writers are seeking better pay, improved residual payments, and protections against artificial intelligence. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out on ScripsNews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Let's get you up to date right now on some of our top stories. A grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, could deliver a 4th criminal indictment against former President Donald Trump this week. The panel is hearing testimony today. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years, and she is expected to begin presenting her evidence at any time now. 6 former Mississippi law enforcement officers pleading guilty in state court today for torturing 2 black men in a racist assault back in January. Prosecutors say some of the white officers called themselves the Goon Squad because of their willingness to use excessive force. They entered a house without a warrant and attacked the 2 men for 90 minutes with stun guns and other objects. The group admitted their guilt in a separate federal civil rights case. Well, the U.S. has been providing $200 million in military aid to Ukraine. The Pentagon says the aid will help sustain Kyiv's counteroffensive as troops on the front lines face a strong Russian defense. The U.S. has already sent more than $43 billion to Ukraine since the beginning of the war. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. and its allies will continue to support Ukraine until Russia withdraws its forces. Welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. We begin this hour with the fires in Maui, marking the deadliest in modern U.S. history, killing at least 96 people. The tragedy has taken a huge toll on Native Hawaiians, many of whom are mourning the loss of not just loved ones, but the loss of culture and history. An 87-year-old woman, a Native Hawaiian who resides in Kansas City, says that being away from her true home during tragedy has been painful. But despite all the loss and damage on Maui, she says that Hawaiians believe in the island's healing spirit.
That is the spirit that I am praying for and know will come back because of all of us joining together. There will be many prayers, there will be many chants. The year 2023 will never be forgotten.
The woman and other Hawaiians in the Kansas City area are planning to collect donations to support the victims of the wildfire at the Ethnic Enrichment Festival in the city next weekend. They are hopeful that locals will get the support to rebuild and reconnect quickly. Now, there's no doubt about it. It's going to take a significant amount of time and money to help the people of Maui recover. Our parent company, Scripps, has been supporting the effort through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen right now to donate and help make a difference for the people there. In other news at this hour, Major League Baseball is taking a closer look at a Tampa Bay Rays player. Officials have been looking into social media posts involving Rays shortstop Wander Franco. Now, this probe is amid allegations about a relationship between Franco and a minor. Scripps News national correspondent Axel Tercios following this developing story and joins us now live from New York. So, Axel, what are the details in this case and the latest information?
Well, Veronica, the Tampa Bay Rays confirmed earlier today Wander Franco was placed on the restricted list, meaning he will miss the duration of the team's current West Coast road trip. So Franco did not travel to San Francisco with the Rays, where tonight they begin a three-game series today. And the Tampa Rays releasing a statement early today regarding the MLB's investigation, saying the Tampa Bay Rays and Wander Franco have mutually agreed that he will go on the restricted list and take leave from the club for the duration of the current road trip. We support any steps taken by the league to better understand the situation. Out of respect for all parties involved, we have no further comments at this time. So the Rays did not go into specifics about the social media post, but Sunday's social media post went viral, alleging an inappropriate relationship between Franco and a minor. The league's inquiry is being conducted by its Department of Investigation and looking into social medias concerning Franco's alleged relationship with a girl in the Dominican Republic, the place where he grew up. Of course, also, the decision of Franco of not playing in Sunday's loss to the Cleveland Guardians has fueled the speculation on social media. Also, the team saying that he had the day off, so that it did not have anything to do with the team's current decision of placing him on the restricted list. Typically, players are not paid while they are on the restricted list. Yet some local media outlets are reporting he will be paid during his time on the restricted list. So the Rays signed Franco to an 11-year contract back in 2021. A $182 million deal. Veronica.
All right, Axel Tercios live in New York. We appreciate it, Axel. Thank you. So President Biden is back in Washington today, but he's going to be back on the road soon, marking the one-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act's passage. The president and other senior administration officials holding events nationwide touting the climate, healthcare, and tax legislation. Just last week, a Washington Post University of Maryland poll found that more than 70% of Americans have heard little to nothing at all about the IRA. President Biden will be in Wisconsin tomorrow visiting a clean energy manufacturing company before holding an event at the White House on Wednesday. Now, in the meantime, lawyers for the president's son, Hunter Biden, say that part of a plea deal is, quote, valid and binding. The plea would allow Hunter to avoid prosecution on a felony gun charge, and that deal was made with David Weiss after a Justice Department investigation and before another plea agreement on tax charges fell apart in court last month. Biden's legal team says that Weiss backed out of the deal. Weiss's team said in a court filing today that they will likely need to go to trial to resolve these legal issues. Biden's legal team says that he plans to abide by the terms of the agreement, including not using drugs or alcohol. A U.S. district judge ordered prosecutors to respond by tomorrow. A Gallup poll shows that 1 in 5 grade school parents say their kids have expressed concerns about feeling safe at school. National correspondent Dan Grossman reports on the way school districts across the country have been trying to create a safer environment.
With the fall school semester having already started or soon to get underway, school safety is top of mind, and what to do in case of a school shooting has become a regular part of planning. Last year, there were 47 school shootings. That is just shy of the previous year's 52, and significantly higher than the 2 years before that. However, those numbers are lower partially because students were in virtual learning due to the pandemic. The deadliest school shooting from last school year was at a private Christian school in Nashville, where the gunman shot through glass to be able to get access inside.
Evil has come here today.
Since the Nashville shooting in March, Tennessee lawmakers approved $230 million for enhanced safety and mental health help. Districts in other states are allowing certain staff members to carry guns on campus or installing collapsible bulletproof rooms. And in some places, resource officers are back to walking school grounds. My Scripps News colleagues across the country are closely following this.
I'm Russell Haythorne in Denver, where armed officers will return to Denver Public Schools this fall for the first time in 3 years. Denver Public Schools ended its relationship with the DPD back in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and defund the police movement. But after a series of shootings here at East High last winter, officers are now returning to the schools.
I'm Stephanie Susskind in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Sunshine State is home to one of the deadliest school shootings in recent years, happening just to our south in Broward County. And that prompted dozens of state laws related to school safety.
Palm Beach County School Police continue to add layers of security. Things like having only one entry point, a verification system to make sure all visitors are approved, at least one officer on every campus, locked doors, and employees now wear a panic alarm badge that was introduced last year.
I'm Nikia Simon in Waco, Texas. Many students this year will now be walking into a school with added security, which includes metal detectors, increased canine visits, and a stronger enforcement of student ID badges. Most importantly, they must wear clear backpacks on campus.
While K through 12 grade campuses have seen the vast majority of shootings, higher education is not immune to the threats of violence. People were shot at Michigan State University. 3 of them died. Since then, the governor of Michigan has taken several steps toward more gun control. Those include universal background checks as well as stricter red flag laws, 2 things that are highly politicized everywhere in our country. Dan Grossman, Scripps News.
Now, if your kids are struggling with a sleep routine, there are simple tricks that you can try to help. According to a pediatric sleep specialist with the Cleveland Clinic, children should be getting 9 to 12 hours of sleep, with younger kids possibly needing even more. Teens should try to get between 8 and 10 hours of sleep, and one way to do that is by taking time to wind down before bed. And that means no rigorous exercising, caffeine, candy, and reducing screen time. With students across the country already back in school or getting ready to go back, one noticeable trend continues. Fewer students have been attending in person. Coming out of the pandemic, more and more students have become chronically absent. Studies have found the absences don't correlate with COVID rates, but rather other reasons, including finances, anxiety, bullying, and staffing shortages.
Chronic absenteeism has at least doubled nationwide. In some places, it's increased even higher because there's a lot of local variation. If you're looking at the signs, you start to see it happening. And chronic absence is an early warning sign that kids might not re-enroll the following year.
Educators and experts also say as a result of the pandemic, some parents and students have grown conditioned to staying home at the slightest sign of sickness. Still to come on Scripps News Live, July potentially marking Earth's hottest month on record. What experts from NOAA have been revealing. And Florida's citrus growers facing continued challenges as they try to rebound after several damaging hurricanes. What one farmer says that he has been seeing after a quick break. And we would like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, that's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
There shouldn't be a stigma around talking about mental health or taking medication for your anxiety if that's what you need to feel better. And that's something I know firsthand. That's why I trust HERS. They help women access quality online mental health care anytime through the HERS app. Get started today at forhers.com.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser. And did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
This is Marianne's first time visiting Paris.
Où allez-vous?
Before Marianne packed her bags, before she attempted her first sentence in French, she downloaded Babbel. So when it came time to tell the cab driver to take her to the Hotel Pierre,
J'aimerais aller à l'Hôtel Pierre. Oh, c'est très bien.
Babbel focuses on natural conversation. You can speak and pronounce with confidence. Start speaking a new language in 3 weeks at Babbel.com.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
So NASA and NOAA scientists say that the Earth is heating up. Experts say temperatures recorded in July of 2023 shattered heat records set in July 2019 by 0.2 degrees Celsius. NOAA's chief scientist says last month could mark the hottest month of any year since at least 1850, and it's a trend that's not slowing down.
A year like this gives us a glimpse into how rising temperatures and heavier rains can impact our society and stress critical infrastructure over the next decade. It's important to remember that these years will be cool by comparison by the middle of the century if we continue to warm our planet as greenhouse gas emissions continue. Put another way, the next few years will be the coolest for the rest of my life if the world continues to emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Other NASA scientists added sea ice coverage hit a record low in July, but the storm count in the tropics was near average. National correspondent Clayton Sandell will have more details from today's report. That's straight ahead at 4:30 p.m. Eastern right here on Scripps News Live. So extreme heat is another weather event putting people at risk across the country, and getting an accurate picture of its impact has been difficult because death certificates don't always reflect the role that it might play. Eugene Gates was a postal worker in Dallas who collapsed in a homeowner's yard this summer. He later died at the hospital. It was 98 degrees with a heat index of more than 110. His widow has been waiting for that autopsy report, but she says that she already knows the cause.
I do know in my heart, and I believe this until the day I die, that it was heat related that caused my husband's death.
Carla Gates has been pushing for legislation to better protect people who have to work outside. Experts are saying inconsistencies in how counties calculate heat deaths result in underreporting.
And you find that most of these deaths are not recorded as being due to the heat. About half are from cardiovascular causes. People, for example, dying of a heart attack who wouldn't have had a heart attack otherwise.
Experts say all heat deaths are preventable. They say a more accurate count of the deaths would lead to better early warning systems, and people at higher risk could be targeted for extra protection. So Florida may be known as the orange state, but the citrus industry is coming off its worst season in nearly a century. An ongoing crisis called citrus greening disease continues to impact crop yields, but the industry may have found its silver bullet. Andrew Shipley with Scripps News Fort Myers has the details.
A lot of groves lost anywhere between 60, 70, 80% of their fruit from the event of the hurricane.
95%, nearly all of the orange groves in Florida, were impacted by Hurricane Ian in one way or another, explained Tamiami Citrus CFO Ron Mayhem. Ian just piling onto problems growers have had to overcome in recent years, he said.
Smaller growers that haven't been able to keep up at all. Mid-sized growers like ourselves, we're struggling to keep everything going.
Like greening disease, a bacteria that can reduce production or even kill a grove.
Well-producing grove could produce 300 to 400 boxes the acre. With greening, we were at 200, 210, 250 boxes the acre. If you could get in at that level, you're barely making money at all.
But Mayhem says the industry may have found a solution that actually works. New microbial injections into the trees help fight the autoimmune response that occurs from the green disease bacteria.
So if you get your production level back up to that 300 plus boxes the acre, it's profitable and you're able to create meaningful levels of production.
But there's one problem.
It's expensive, both in terms of labor as well as the product.
Not only growers dealing with reduced production, they're also patiently waiting for promised disaster aid from the federal government. While FDA has the money ready to distribute, how it will get it to growers hasn't passed.
It really depends, I think, a lot on getting that disaster relief out to help us keep the groves going, get them back into production.
As for this year's crop,
we have a reasonable crop that's out there on the trees. If we're able to keep it on the trees and get it harvested, assuming there's no hurricane, we should have a crop that certainly would be bigger than last year because of the hurricane impacts. And it should get us on our road to recovery.
The citrus industry will get an estimate on production in late August, early September, with harvest in the fall. But growers won't likely see revenue from that crop until the winter months.
And that was Andrew Shipley coming to us from Scripps News Fort Myers. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, one mother's search for the right place for her daughter led her to create a successful dance studio celebrating diversity. How it's been helping students find their passion. That's straight ahead. And we would like to remind you to follow us at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. We're back after this.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
I like the always pant and perfect pot, but you look like fun. Only at our place.
What should we do?
I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, we can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Attention anyone new to Medicare moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there's a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-769-1530. 800-769-1530. Attention anyone new to Medicare moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there's a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-769-1530. 800-769-1530.
During my time reporting from the front lines in Ukraine, I witnessed the extraordinary spirit of everyday people. No Surrender, Wednesday night at 10/9 Central, only on Scripps News.
Right now, we're learning more about the most distant star ever detected. Earendel is about 28 billion light years away, and it is 1,000,000 times brighter than the sun and about twice as hot. The James Webb Telescope picked up the star's light that dates back to within the first billion years of the universe. And the universe, by the way, is thought to be nearly 14 billion years old. Earendel can be found in the Sunrise Arc galaxy. Well, a clothing company called Skinny Tees has been making it their mission to empower women of all shapes, sizes, and age. Based in Birmingham, Michigan, Skinny Tees was founded by Linda Schlesinger Wagner 14 years ago. Its latest initiative is called Girl Power Boxes, each about $54, and it has a Barbie pink tank top, a candle, 5 affirmation cards, and some lip gloss. A portion of the proceeds goes to a regional Women to Work program.
Who wants to get their resume into better shape, learn how to interview, figure out what they might want to do for a living, receive some career counseling. We can do all of those things for folks throughout Metro Detroit.
Now, the program helps women across Southeast Michigan find employment, especially those who need support after stressful events like divorce or the death of a spouse. Last year, it helped 5,000 women get into the workforce. The Girl Power Boxes that support this mission are sold year-round and nationwide, and they can be bought online on the company's website. I want to get you now to Virginia. A dance studio there finding lasting success by offering students a variety of dance styles that reflect their own diversity. As part of National Black Business Month, our Amber Strong shares one mother's goal to find a place for her daughter.
It's been said that dancing is like dreaming for your feet. Well, this Virginia dance school is making those dreams reality and taking students from diverse backgrounds to some of the biggest stages in the country.
In this practice room, there's ballet and contemporary, a little bit of breaking, and a lot of encouragement. The dancers as diverse as the styles. Founder Kalia Harris started the Ambiance Center for the Performing Arts after finding little diversity in area schools for her daughter Naya.
She started it so that I could see myself and have a place in the arts that was like all my own. When I was visiting places, they were saying, well, you know, people of color just don't put their children into, you know, extracurricular activities and things. And so I was like, I just don't think that's true.
10 years later, enrollment is up to 200 students, mostly through word of mouth.
This is a place where, students of all different shapes and sizes and colors and genders can come and just be accepted and be safe.
Misty Copeland, the first principal ballerina in the history of the American Ballet Theater, has lamented the lack of diversity.
It weighs on you and it wears on you after a while. Something that I fought so hard for throughout the beginning of my career is that I didn't want to pancake my skin a lighter color to fit into the corps de ballet.
It's not just a lack of representation, it's the standards that some in the dance world say aren't inclusive.
Each of our dancers, no matter what their skin tone is, will find tights that will match their skin tone. When ballet was formed, it was not formed with us in mind. People of color, and so we have pink tights.
And while every style is welcomed, fundamentals are a requirement.
Tap, a little struggle, but I got into it. But ballet and contemporary, oh no, man.
It's one of those dance studios where it's not competitive at all. You do your dancing, I do mine.
Harris says she wants her students to love themselves, but also to be able to succeed on any stage in the world, and they have, with some going on to perform at the Kennedy Center and for legendary choreographer Debbie Allen. She also gives away dozens of scholarships to area kids yearly.
After COVID, I have personally seen more than ever that our children are hurting. So my heart is to be able to give back to the community.
Saying at the end of the day, it's about giving every child a sense of belonging.
I know that I'm just a dancer and I'm not carrying the responsibility of being the only Black dancer in the room.
Amber Strong, Scripps News, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Coming up next, all eyes are on a courthouse in Georgia. Julie Martin has more on the latest on possible indictments for Donald Trump. The news continues right here on Scripps News Live. And don't forget to check us out online as well, scripsnews.com. If you're staying with us, we have much more headed your way. Don't go too far. We will be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
We're tracking several major stories this afternoon. More possible indictments for former President Donald Trump. We're going to see how Georgia may be using a different legal approach than previous courts. Also ahead.
We did not know anything that was going on really in Lahaina.
Reports of mass chaos in Maui as wildfires rage through its main town. We're going to update the staggering losses of life and property. Plus this.
Working together is the way to do it.
A devastated community coming together. We're going to see how the volunteer spirit is helping those in desperate need on the island. Good afternoon. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz, and today for Del Walters, former President Donald Trump facing a potentially unprecedented fourth indictment in Georgia this week. All this remarkably unfolding during the 2024 race for the White House. Fulton County DA Fani Willis presenting her case before a grand jury. Now, she spent more than 2 years investigating Trump and his associates' alleged efforts at overturning the state's 2020 presidential election. Willis has successfully used racketeering charges in other cases and is expected to bring similar charges in this one. Scripps News national political correspondent Avajoy Burnett has been following these developments for us, and she joins us now live from Atlanta. So, Avajoy, I know that there's a lot of movement around that courthouse. What can you tell us is happening right now?
Hi, well, we just watched as one of the people who posted on social media that he would be addressing the grand jury. He just walked into the courthouse just a few minutes ago. And this is a major development because this journalist, his name is George Chitty, and we were expecting that he would be testifying before the grand jury tomorrow. But then he posted on social media today that he will be going today. And the journalist here just watched as he walked in. He stopped a little bit, kind of did a wave towards the camera. This is significant because this could potentially signal that things could be moving a little bit more quickly here. Remember, this is a case that the district attorney here, Fani Willis, has been investigating for just about 2 years now into alleged election interference surrounding the former President Donald Trump when he was heard on a recording asking an official here to find additional votes. We also know that the former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, he was asked to come and testify before the grand jury. He's now said that he will be here today instead of tomorrow. So this is a signal that things could be moving forward even more quickly. There's also a former state official. Her name is Bee Wen. She also testified today. So that is 3 people who we now know could potentially be testifying today. We just have to get the official confirmation. But here is what this former state official posted on social media today when she said she actually testified in front of this grand jury. And we want to pull it up on the screen for you. She said that no individual is above the law, and I will continue to fully cooperate with any legal proceedings seeking the truth and protecting our democracy. Of course, this is one of those lawmakers who has for a long time been condemning the former president and any of his allies who allege wrongdoing here in the state of Georgia, who said that there was election interference, who also allegedly peddled lies about ballot harvesting and so forth in the state of Georgia. And so one of the big things that we could be looking forward to if there is an indictment is who could potentially be charged here. We know that Fani Willis, she is known to use the RICO laws in order to go after organized crime. And if you have organized crime, that means there is by definition more than one person. So there was a document that was leaked earlier today by a media organization. They quickly recanted that. But that document appears to show that the former president could face more than a dozen charges. And there are at least 24 charges on this document that has quickly been scrubbed. If it is in fact accurate, we could see at least 2 people charged here in this case, if not several more. We spoke with a law professor here in the state of Georgia who believes this particular case here is the one that is most dangerous for the former president. Here's this law professor talking to us about this particular matter.
Even if he believed, quote, the election had been stolen, he wasn't entitled to use illegal means to deal with that problem. He went to court over and over again. He lost every single court case. That was the way to deal with claims of fraud. That was unsuccessful. And so he turned to illegal means, arguably, to try to stay in power. That's the crime.
Former President Trump has been very vocal about this. He alleges that all of these cases against him are election interference because he is the front runner to become the GOP nominee. In fact, he spoke about this at the Iowa State Fair or in Iowa over the weekend. And we do know that he has been posting quite a bit on social media, even coming up with a signature nickname for the district attorney here. So as we continue to wait to see what happens here in downtown Atlanta at the Fulton County Courthouse, of course, we'll be monitoring everything that the former president says as well.
And Abijoy, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that possible copy of the indictment that has been leaked online. What else are you learning at this point? How many others might be under the microscope besides Trump?
That is such an important question, Veronica, because as I mentioned before, the district attorney here, she usually uses RICO laws to go after people who she believes are involved in organized crime. We've seen her do that with rappers, for example. And so with that, the scope could potentially be quite massive. We know that Rudy Giuliani, the attorney who's former New York City mayor, he actually came down here in December of 2020 to try to push state lawmakers to move forward with fake electors, alleged fake electors. And there was video of all of this. This stuff was all over YouTube because at that time proceedings were being streamed online. So that is one person who we know could potentially be a target here. I saw some reporting that he was told that he could potentially be a target, but that was last year before we were seeing all of this activity surrounding this particular case and all of the other cases involving the former president. We also know that there are really close ties with what happened here in Georgia and that January 6th case as well. If you read the indictment, they broke everything up in the January 6th case based on the different states. And here in Georgia, they talked about the steps that were allegedly taken in order for them to move forward fake electors to say that the former president was the rightful winner and not then President-elect Joe Biden. So this scope really, Veronica, could be quite massive when we're thinking about all of the people who were surrounding the former president, his foot soldiers who were going out of Washington, D.C. and into states like Georgia.
All right, Abijoy Burnett reporting live from right outside the Fulton County Courthouse. Abijoy, we're going to be circling back with you. Thank you so much. So like Abijoy was just telling us, it's been over 2 years now since Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis opened her investigation into former President Donald Trump. And now that indictment is expected to bring in front of a grand jury by Willis. Could be the same one used to put mobsters behind bars. Scripps News congressional correspondent Stephanie Lieberman tells us more about these so-called RICO laws and what they mean exactly.
Attention is on the Fulton County Courthouse again this week as we await a possible fourth indictment for former President Trump. But the potential charge in this case could be different than the other three in more ways than one. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has been investigating efforts to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results for more than 2 years. And some legal experts expect she'll bring the case under a law initially written to target the mob, racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations, or RICO.
A racketeer is somebody who commits at least 2 different crimes that are related in trying to achieve the same goal.
Georgia's RICO law is written more broadly than the federal version, meaning there's a large number of crimes that can qualify for a racketeering charge.
The ones that we think will appear in the indictment, it's a crime to make a false statement to a state official. It's a crime to create false documents and submit them to various state agencies. Perjury can be a crime. Terroristic threats. And we know that the district attorney is looking at threats against election workers.
The former president is already facing 2 federal indictments and a case in New York. But if he's indicted in Fulton County, it could be the most problematic one he faces.
If he's reelected, he has no power over what's going on in Georgia. He can't tell the district attorney what to do. She is an elected official. She's not answerable to anybody in state government. The possibility of him being convicted and going to jail is far greater, I would say.
If the former president is indicted in Fulton County, we can expect to see an arraignment happen in the following day or two. Stephanie Lieberman, Scripps News, Washington.
That was Scripps News national correspondent Stephanie Lieberman. We appreciate her reporting there. Coming up next, a family getting justice today. 2 Nigerian men extradited in a sexual extortion scheme that authorities say led to the suicide of one teenager in Michigan. What that teen's mom is saying now. But first, a grim scene in Maui where the death toll from massive wildfires continues to rise. We'll hear from residents about the destruction and their efforts to survive.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I'm so sorry. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
I have patients who think they've tried everything for their sweat. That's when I recommend Carpe. Carpe specializes in effective sweat solutions at an affordable price with products for the face, hands, underarms, and more.
It's honestly just completely changed my life.
Nothing worked for me until I found Carpe.
This makes my life so much less slippery.
I've personally seen the difference that Carpe can make.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com. Visit today and get free shipping.
How does Klein Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Spector.
Over in Maui, Hawaii, nearly 100 dead from wildfires. Search and rescue efforts continue right now for the hundreds more that may be missing. And as the fires go down, residents are also getting their first look at the devastation left behind. There is help heading their way right now, but the massive demand for help after the devastation has been stressing emergency supplies, leaving many residents waiting for hours and without much information, thanks to down power and communications systems.
We did not know anything that was going on really in Lahaina. We just couldn't get out of our house. We had no running water, no electricity, no nothing. And we got stuck there, and I had no idea what was going on just 2 miles down the road. We had no information. My cousin's over there right now taking care of everything, but we don't have any like good running water or anything. I don't know. Right. So, yeah. And I went back to go get 2 generators and 25 gallons of gas to come back over, and I waited in line for 4.5 hours thinking that I could get through, and fights started when I was there.
Now, officials say the Maui blaze was 85% contained by Sunday night local, and power was restored for at least 60% of the island's residents. Federal relief continues to be directed to the state since President Biden signed the emergency declaration on Thursday to support the recovery efforts. Plus, organizations like Hawaii's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience say that they are uniquely positioned to help local homeowners, businesses, renters, and private nonprofits get back on their feet.
We can't begin to understand the grief and the loss that these communities are going through. What we saw on the ground is nothing short of catastrophic or heartbreaking. The president signed a major disaster declaration, and he was very clear. Bring every federal resource that we have available to help these communities recover. So the people of Maui, the people of Hawaii need to know they're not at this alone.
Now, the people of Hawaii have come together to help their loved ones, neighbors, and community members recover from the massive wildfire devastation. National correspondent Dan Grossman gives us a look at their efforts and what is driving them to help each other.
There is a unique might to the power of Mother Nature in Hawaii. It is felt with each crashing wave, with each incinerated home. Okay. And it's only matched.
What are you doing right now, man? What are we doing? We're taking supplies out to Lahaina from the east side.
By the might of human nature, innate to those who call this place home.
Working together is the way to do it. This is Maui. We're operating from a different way.
We got 3 truckloads ready to rock, and we're ready to get this to them.
Thousands of people remain displaced by the fires that rip through historic Lahaina, Maui's upcountry, and its southern landscapes. But for everything the flames took, Maui's people were able to give back. By day's end Sunday, electricity and internet had been restored to parts of Lahaina, supplies had been delivered en masse, and people started to feel a glimmer of hope that could only come from each other.
We all have this really strong, in Olelo, it's called pilina. It's building this sense of connection and community that we all have with each other.
We found Thomas Baum volunteering at one of the shelters on Maui. He says several of his friends have no home, no clothes, yet they are only focused on the blessing that they are still here. A sentiment shared by not just them.
It wasn't in the forefront of the conversation. It wasn't, look at me, I lost all my shit. It was, look at what we have. We have this beautiful thing. We have this opportunity to malama each other, which is like care for each other. This opportunity to step up and really be there for our neighbors and build our community stronger.
When disaster strikes, we tend to refer to those affected as saying they lost everything.
Stand together, kui. We got to get in there to our friends and relatives and help them.
At least here, those who have lost everything but each other. Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Maui.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, extreme heat putting people at risk all across the country. And getting an accurate picture of its impact has been difficult because death certificates don't always reflect the role that it plays. Eugene Gates was a postal worker in Dallas who collapsed in a homeowner's yard this summer, later died at the hospital, and it was 98 degrees with a heat index of more than 110. His widow is waiting for the autopsy report, but she says that she already knows what the cause is.
I do know in my heart, and I believe this until the day I die, that it was heat related that caused my husband's death.
Carla Gates pushing for legislation to better protect people who work outside. Experts say inconsistencies in how counties calculate heat deaths result in underreporting.
You find that most of these deaths are not recorded as being due to the heat. About half are from cardiovascular causes. People, for example, dying of a heart attack who wouldn't have had a heart attack otherwise.
Experts say all heat deaths are preventable. They say a more accurate count of the deaths would lead to better early warning systems, and people at higher risk could be targeted for extra protection. Straight ahead, a sextortion case led to the suicide of a 17-year-old Michigan athlete. This weekend, the Justice Department inching towards bringing justice to the victims. And a warning from NASA about our planet, and a demonstration of just how bad our climate change really is. That's next.
I wish I had this in my 20s. Chibula Active Serum from True Botanicals prevents 5 signs of aging before they happen. You have to try this. I promise it is 100% worth it.
Go to truebotanicals.com for 2 free gifts. Limited time offer.
Get customizable furniture at joybird.com that complements your art, your green thumb, or just you. Save up to 40% off select bestsellers. Plus, get free design services at joybird.com.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions, and rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
During my time reporting from the front lines in Ukraine, I witnessed the extraordinary spirit of everyday people.
As a mother, I have to show the good example.
Putting their lives on the line to defend their home.
War is not the task of one person. Our motto is always first, always forward.
No surrender. Ukraine's unsung heroes. Wednesday night at 10/9 Central, only on Scripps News.
Two Nigerian men accused of running a global sextortion operation involving more than 100 victims were extradited to the United States. Prosecutors say one online encounter led to a teenager dying by suicide. National correspondent Addie Guajardo joining us now live from Phoenix. Addie, tell us more. These men are scheduled for their initial appearance in front of a judge. What exactly can we expect?
Yeah, Veronica, look, both Nigerian nationals, 22-year-old Samuel Agashi and 22-year-old Samson Agashi, are going to make their initial appearance today in front of a federal judge. Now, today is going to be the day that they decide to either plead guilty or not guilty to the charges that they are facing. We have our Scripps News affiliate in the courtroom right now listening in on this case. So as soon as they plead, we'll have those details for you. But basically, they're going to be represented by a federal prosecutor in court unless they were able to hire their own attorney. Now, according to this indictment, these men allegedly hacked into social media accounts where they posed as young women and then targeted young men and boys in order to solicit photos that they then used to blackmail them and ask for hundreds of dollars. And if they didn't give them that money, according to this indictment, they were threatening to post these photos online until they went viral. Now, I spoke with an attorney with experience in international and human rights law. He says sextortion cases that include extradition are very uncommon.
And while prosecutions for sextortion and sex crimes online have increased dramatically in the last 2 years, it's relatively new to have defendants extradited to the U.S. from international locations.
He says the expedited process by the United States and the Nigerian court system really says that this is a very serious case and serious crimes that these men are facing. Veronica?
How serious exactly, Addie? What are some of the penalties that they could be facing?
Well, Veronica, these are some very serious crimes. Look, one of the men is charged with sexual exploitation and attempted exploitation of a minor, resulting in death, which could carry a life sentence. Now, both men are also charged with these crimes: conspiracy to sexually exploit minors, conspiracy to distribute child pornography, and conspiracy to commit stalking. Now, the mother of one of the alleged victims, 17-year-old Jordan DeMay, says that her son took his life after one of these suspects reached out and demanded $1,000, or he would be posting those photos online.
Suspects told him, go ahead and kill yourself, and if you don't, I will make you do it.
Now, these men could potentially face additional charges. The U.S. is also waiting for the extradition of a third defendant. That one's still pending. So, Veronica, will be monitoring this story very closely. Back to you.
Appreciate it. Addie Guajardo reporting live from Phoenix. Thank you. At least 3 people are reported injured overnight in Ukraine following a Russian drone attack. It all happened in Odessa, which is in southern Ukraine on the Black Sea. Ukraine says its military shot down the drones, but the debris fell on several buildings, including a grocery store, sparking a fire. Elsewhere, another Russian attack proved deadly. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said 7 people, including a 3-month-old, were killed in a strike on Kherson. In the meantime, Ukraine is apparently striking back with drone attacks of their own. According to the Russian military, Ukraine targeted an area just inside the Russian border. Russia says it knocked the drone out of the sky with no one being injured, but an apartment building was damaged. Ukraine, in what is now standard practice, isn't commenting on its military operations. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out online on scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. NASA addressing this summer's scorching heat, and the agency has some frightening facts about our planet's climate. Also, Native Hawaiians watching the wildfires from afar. They're finding ways to help their hometown. We're going to introduce you to one couple in Kansas City doing their part. We'll be right back.
Behind the nightmares of war hide simple motivations.
An immediate concern is theft of grain.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat follow the costs and profits of the war in Ukraine, tracking the hidden network of Russian cargo ships, smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Scripps News and Bellingcat present Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Act now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
This is Mary Ann's first time visiting Paris.
Où allez-vous?
Before Mary Ann packed her bags, before she attempted her first sentence in French, she downloaded Babbel. So when it came time to tell a cab driver to take her to the Hotel Pierre,
J'aimerais aller à l'Hôtel Pierre.
Oh, c'est très bien.
Babbel focuses on natural conversation, so you can speak and pronounce with confidence.
Language lessons for every summer adventure. Get 55% off for a limited time at babbel.com/TV.
Let's get you up to date right now on some of our top stories. A grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, could deliver a 4th criminal indictment against former President Donald Trump this week. The panel is hearing testimony today. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years. She's expected to begin presenting her evidence anytime now. 6 white former Mississippi law officers have pleaded guilty to charges of torturing 2 black men in a racist assault. The officers entered a house without a warrant, and they handcuffed and assaulted the 2 men for 90 minutes while mocking them with racial slurs. The 6 former officers already admitted guilt in a federal civil rights case. Hawaii's governor warning there could be many more victims of Maui's wildfires. Search crews are going street by street through neighborhoods where the flames have raced across the landscape. Most of the historic town of Lahaina has been destroyed. The governor is estimating 10 to 20 bodies could be found per day. At least 96 people have been confirmed dead. Welcome to Scripps News. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz in for Del Walters. We're following the latest developments right now from Atlanta, Georgia, where a grand jury could deliver a 4th indictment against former President Donald Trump this week for allegedly interfering in the state's 2020 presidential election. The Fulton County panel is hearing testimony right now. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years. She's expected to begin presenting her evidence at any moment. Reuters has obtained a copy of the alleged indictment, and Fulton County has scheduled a press conference for later on this afternoon. However, the Fulton County Clerk's office is standing firm against giving legitimacy to that report. In other news at this hour, in Maui, most people on the U.S. mainland heartbroken by the video that they've been seeing. Abby Dodge with Scripps News Kansas City spoke with people who have deep connections to the island.
So violent. I mean, there's fires and then there's that.
And there's nothing I can do, and there's this ache for that, and wishing somehow it could be different.
I mean, that was original. There's not 2 of those. There's not another one somewhere. It's just, that's gone.
The historic town of Lahaina, once home to Hawaii's kings and queens, transformed from the name of a city to the site of the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history, taking at least 93 lives.
You know all the roads and the shops and everything. You know it. It's like being in your hometown again.
Kelly and Marty Hackelman have been traveling to Hawaii since their honeymoon more than 20 years ago.
It's just like, just trying to get our heads around it.
Aching for those who call Hawaii home, like Dorinda Makala'o-Nalani Nicholson, who grew up on the islands, living in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor, now experiencing another tragedy from afar.
I want to be there, and I want to be there as a native, and that can talk Pidgin English, and that can talk the history.
While Dorinda has created her own paradise here in Kansas City over the years, her home is calling her back to help, with aid already starting.
There will be many prayers, there will be many chants. The year 2023 will never be forgotten, and it will have a new history, and we will see what that will be.
Hoping the new history is connected to the old lands.
That is the spirit that I am praying for and know will come back because of all of us joining together.
No doubt about it. It's going to take a significant amount of time and money to help the people of Maui recover. Our parent company, Scripps, is supporting that effort through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen to donate and help make a difference for the people there. So July was massively warmer than any other month ever on record, and human activity is driving the stunning temperature jump. That's according to NASA and scientists with NOAA. They say that greenhouse gas emissions have been to blame, and that global warming is also creating greater and more intense wildfires. Scripps News national correspondent Clayton Sandell joins us now live from Denver with the details on this. So Clayton, what did we learn about the record heat wave this summer?
Hey, Veronica, good afternoon. Yeah, so today climate scientists at NASA and NOAA confirmed what a lot of us probably already suspected. July was hot. Now we know by how much. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says that July, quote, shattered the previous record, and that one was set just in 2019. Now, here's what the numbers show, that July 2023 was more than 2 degrees warmer than the average July between 1951 and 1980, and 2 degrees may not sound like a lot, but climate scientists say that we've already been seeing the impacts of a warming world, and recently, from flooding in Vermont, record heat in Phoenix, record warm ocean temperatures in the Florida Keys, and of course, the wildfires like the ones we've seen in Maui. Take a listen.
Last month was way, way warmer than anything we've ever seen. The warmest month of the year for global temperatures is also typically in July, just like it's usually the warmest month of the year for most places in the United States. Given that July 2023 was the warmest July on record and July is the globe's warmest month of the year, it's very likely that July 2023 was hotter than any month in any year since at least 1850.
One climate scientist said today that as long as humans keep warming the planet by releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, 2023 will seem cool by comparison as each year gets hotter and hotter. And as NASA pointed out today, the 5 hottest Julys, Veronica, since 1880 have all happened in the past 5 years.
Wow. Wow. You know, Clayton, we've all been watching the aftermath of these devastating wildfires in Maui, and a lot of folks have been asking if a warming climate played a role here. Even the governor of Hawaii was suggesting it. What are scientists saying about this?
Yeah, so there is a well-established bit of scientific research that says a warming climate is a key driver in the increase of fire weather, and warmer and drier conditions are leading to more active fire seasons. But climate scientists will caution that it's still difficult to point to a single event and blame it on climate change. But today, NASA climate scientist Gavin Schmidt was asked about the climate-wildfire connection, and he points out that Hawaii has actually been getting less rainfall as the storms have tracked northward. And he says a lot of factors go into how these fires start and grow. But when it comes to Maui, the climate change fingerprint is there. Here's what he said.
In general, climate change is a kind of threat multiplier for wildfires. And so there is an overall tendency that we will increasingly see towards greater and more intense wildfires that will be caused by climate change.
And determining just how much climate change is contributing to fires is something scientists say they are going to be studying very carefully in the future. Veronica?
All right, Clayton Sendell reporting for us there from Denver. Clayton, thank you. Still ahead on Scripps News, school districts across the country have implemented new safety features this year. What they're doing right now to ease concerns of students, teachers, and families. Also ahead.
All this VFX work takes people to do, even though it's considered to be, computer generated.
A large group of artists is hoping to join the fight to protect themselves against artificial intelligence. That's next.
Do you have too much body fat? It tends to accumulate on your stomach, hips, and thighs.
Are you struggling to lose weight? Does it seem like no matter what you do, you just can't get rid of excess body fat?
Body fat builds over our midsection. Body fat increases from lack of exercise and poor diet.
The Obesity Research Institute has found the solution. It's called Lipozene. Lipozene is clinically proven to help reduce your body fat and weight. And to raise awareness about this weight loss breakthrough, the company is letting people try Lipozene risk-free for 30 days.
Now you can lose 4 times more weight. Just add Lipozene for only $29.95. Call right now and we'll double your order for free and ship it free too. And for a limited time, we'll double the size of each bottle for free. So now you have 4 times the Lipozene for just $29.95. Plus, you'll get Metabo Up Plus to help boost your energy and metabolism. But you must call.
Lipozene is clinically proven to help you lose body fat. In fact, a double-blind study showed that not only did participants lose weight, but 78% of each pound that was lost was pure body fat.
What's even more amazing is that people were not asked to change their daily lives. It's so easy. Just take Lipozene. That's it. If you're ready, then call the number on your screen right now. Lipozene is worth the price because Lipozene is clinically proven to work.
Now you can lose 4 times more weight. Just add Lipozene for only $29.95. Call right now and we'll double your order for free and ship it free too. And for a limited time, we'll double the size of each bottle for free. So now you have 4 times the Lipozene for just $29.95. Plus, you'll get Metabo Up Plus to help boost your energy and metabolism. But you must call.
Call 800-224-1751.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
The world's just spinning a little too fast. So just for a moment, let's be still.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive
with up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
Well, the state of Illinois is now treating gun manufacturers the same as vaping companies and predatory lenders. Under a law signed Saturday by Governor J.B. Pritzker, gun companies are now banned from advertising that targets children or poses a public safety threat. Illinois is now the 8th state to enact such a measure, and it comes on the heels of another victory for gun safety groups. The Illinois Supreme Court just upheld the state's ban on assault-style rifles and high-capacity magazines. Gun rights groups say both measures infringe on the Second Amendment rights of individuals. Now, in the meantime, 1 in 5 grade school parents have said that their kids have expressed concerns about feeling unsafe at school. It's all according to a Gallup poll. Our Scripps News correspondent Dan Grossman reports on the different approaches that school districts across the country are taking to create safer environments.
With the fall school semester having already started or soon to get underway, school safety is top of mind, and what to do in case of a school shooting has become a regular part of planning. Last year, there were 47 school shootings. That is just shy of the previous year's 52, and significantly higher than the 2 years before that. However, those numbers are lower partially because students were in virtual learning due to the pandemic. The deadliest school shooting from last school year was at a private Christian school in Nashville, where the gunman shot through glass to be able to get access inside.
Evil has come here today.
Since the Nashville shooting in March, Tennessee lawmakers approved $230 million for enhanced safety and mental health help. Districts in other states are allowing certain staff members to carry guns on campus or installing collapsible bulletproof rooms. And in some places, resource officers are back to walking school grounds. My Scripps News colleagues across the country are closely following this.
I'm Russell Haythorne in Denver, where armed officers will return to Denver Public Schools this fall for the first time in 3 years. Denver Public Schools ended its relationship with the DPD back in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and defund the police movement. But after a series of shootings here at East High last winter, officers are now returning to the schools.
I'm Stephanie Susskind in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Sunshine State is home to one of the deadliest school shootings in recent years, happening just to our south in Broward County. And that prompted dozens of state laws related to school safety.
Palm Beach County School Police continue to add layers of security. Things like having only one entry point, a verification system to make sure all visitors are approved, at least one officer on every campus, locked doors, and employees now wear a panic alarm badge that was introduced last year.
I'm Nakia Simon in Waco, Texas. Many students this year will now be walking into a school with added security, which includes metal detectors, increased canine visits, and a stronger enforcement of student ID badges. Most importantly, they must wear clear backpacks on campus.
While K through 12 grade campuses have seen the vast majority of shootings, higher education is not immune to the threats of violence. People were shot at Michigan State University. 3 of them died. Since then, the governor of Michigan has taken several steps toward more gun control. Those include universal background checks as well as stricter red flag laws, 2 things that are highly politicized nearly everywhere in our country. Dan Grossman, Scripps News.
So the Writers Guild of America now evaluating a counterproposal that it has received from Hollywood studios and producers Friday. But there hasn't been much movement in talks with the Actors Union. Now more Hollywood workers are organizing. The visual effects crews at Marvel Studios, which produce the eye-popping superhero films, have voted to unionize. They want to join the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, and a vote could come as early as next week. Workers' concerns are no different than the striking actors and writers. They want better pay and protection from the threat of artificial intelligence. In the meantime, AI has been bringing real concern to the industry. Entertainment correspondent Casey Mendoza shows us how artificial intelligence could upend the visual effects department altogether.
From the world of Pandora in Avatar: The Way of the Water, to the hyper-realistic jets in Top Gun: Maverick and the exoplanetary weather of The Mandalorian, chances are your favorite films and TV series owe a lot to visual effects artists. In 2022, the market size of the global VFX industry was estimated to reach more than $9 billion, according to several research groups. And that growing demand for visual effects is straining the artists working behind the scenes.
Right, we got a lot of interest from VFX workers who, we're seeing us fighting those problems for unionized film and TV workers, and saying, we want to be brought up with those sorts of standards, and we want to have a vehicle by which to fix these problems.
Scripps News previously reported on the issues facing the VFX industry, including long hours, low pay, and outsourcing jobs to companies outside of the U.S. Now, following the dual Hollywood strikes from the Writers Guild of America and the Actors Guild SAG-AFTRA, more than 50 visual effects workers from Marvel Studios filed a unionization election with the National Labor Relations Board. Matthew Loeb, the president of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE, addressed the potential unionization. We are witnessing an unprecedented wave of solidarity that's breaking down old barriers in the industry and proving we're all in this fight together.
We would love to have as many VFX workers, in the same union that already represents film and TV folk. Right, the more of us there are, kind of the more ability we have to negotiate better contracts, which improve, entertainment workers' lives.
This is actually the second major unionization effort started by visual effects workers. In 2014, artists attempted to create a VFX trade association to prevent studios from outsourcing visual effects work. But within 2 years, the group ran out of money to pay for legal funds. Other financial struggles, including thin profit margins and outsourcing, have long plagued VFX companies, even the most successful.
Sadly, Rhythm & Hughes is suffering severe financial difficulties right now.
That's Brian Westenhofer accepting the 2013 Academy Award for Visual Effects for the film Life of Pi. His acceptance speech was cut off after speaking out about the financial struggles in VFX work. The company, Rhythm & Hughes, shuttered the next year.
All this VFX work takes people to do, even though it's considered to be, computer generated. A lot of computer generated imagery, it's called. It still requires a person to put in the information that, yields a good result.
10 years later, VFX art is arguably more in demand than ever before, but VFX artists are still fighting for better labor standards. Going forward, if the Marvel VFX team successfully organizes, other artist groups will likely follow suit. Casey Mendoza, Scripps News.
And coming up next on Scripps News Live, what may be the biggest thing to ever happen to soccer in the United States? How Lionel Messi is elevating the sport in this country right now. That's next.
I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs, like a top frame from your favorite holiday. Or you can even turn your glasses into sunglasses. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson, but we need to take some x-rays today.
Okay.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but The front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. So the NBA just welcomed 12 new members to the Basketball Hall of Fame over the weekend. Among them, D. Wade.
The first memory I have of holding a basketball was when I was 5 years old. And it wasn't love at first sight. But one thing I knew for sure was that something inside of me would come alive every time I had that ball in my hands.
Wade called his father to the stage at Saturday's induction ceremony. Check this out. It was so sweet. And he was saying that they had made the Hall of Fame together. Wade played all but 2 of his seasons of his 16-year career with the Miami Heat, winning 3 world titles. Among the other members of this year's Hall of Fame class, Dallas Mavs great Dirk Nowitzki, also Spurs coach Greg Popovich. Congratulations. Last night, Damar Hamlin played in his first game since his heart stopped following a tackle that he made back in January on Monday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills safety thrilled the home fans by suiting up for Saturday's preseason game against the Colts. Hamlin played a role in his team's victory. The Colts went on it for a 4th and 1 in the first quarter, and Hamlin stopped the running back for no gain. Hamlin is saying that it feels like he is back in his element. World Cup soccer fans may be looking for a fix after the U.S. women's team's early exit and no upcoming men's World Cup until 2026. But soccer fans don't have to look too far to feel the buzz around Lionel Messi's arrival to Major League Soccer. Sports contributor Paul Crane has more now on how one of the game's greatest players is creating Messi mania.
Lionel Messi is one of the greatest soccer players ever, but his joining Inter Miami of Major League Soccer may be the biggest thing to ever happen to the sport in this country. Lionel Messi has wasted no time changing the fortunes of his new team and new league. Messi was one of the greatest players ever before he led Argentina to a World Cup championship last year.
The group now that won the Copa America, that won the World Cup, younger group, they don't see Messi as a normal teammate. They see him as a deity almost, and they play for him. They're not playing next to him, they're playing for him. And this Inter Miami group straight away, I think, has kind of locked into that idea.
Inter Miami was winless in its previous 11 MLS matches before Messi's arrival. Now they are a force to be reckoned with and one of the most sought-after tickets in the sport. How important is it that Messi not only came to the MLS, but came to a team like Inter Miami and in a place like South Florida?
I don't know if there's anywhere else that he would have been as motivated to come to the league for. We've seen Miami be a market in professional sports in the U.S. that is driven by stars. Lionel Messi is the star of stars. I think it is the perfect fit.
Messi turned down hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis to play for David Beckham's Inter Miami team. His 2.5-year deal is for $150 million plus equity in the team and added money from Adidas and Apple.
Apple TV, they're going to be incredibly happy because now their streaming service in some parts of the world, Apple's not the dominant factor that it is here in the US. The Google search of Inter Miami versus Dallas was the largest search term yesterday worldwide. These are places that MLS hasn't been.
World soccer stars have been few and far between in the United States. The great Pelé came to the North American Soccer League in the mid-1970s, and David Beckham to the LA Galaxy in the mid-2000s. But Lionel Messi is the one with a chance to take the sport in the States to a place those other stars could only dream about.
Right now, he is just so special, and I hope that all sports fans in the United States understand what they're seeing. I mean, the only comparison I have in my lifetime is that last season, The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan at that time. This is like that right now. And we'll see how long it can last for him in Miami and just all of the effects we're going to get from this.
Inter Miami is unbeaten since Messi's arrival, and he scored 8 goals in 5 matches as they head to the semifinals of the League's Cup Tuesday night. And who knows? Depending on what happens the next 2 years, maybe, just maybe, Messi would play in one more World Cup when it comes back to the United States and North America in 2026. Paul Crane, Scripps News.
I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. The news continues right here on Scripps News Live. Coming up, all eyes on Fulton County, Georgia, as a possible 4th indictment could be coming for former President Trump. A live update from outside the courthouse straight ahead.
Law enforcement calls it house stealing, and cyber thieves transfer the title to your home out of your name to take out fraudulent loans or even sell it. How do you protect yourself? Get triple lock protection from Home Title Lock. Our triple lock protection gives you 1, 24/7 monitoring, 2, urgent alerts of any title changes, and 3, title restoration help from our team of experts. Do you know if your title is safe? Check your title status now at HometitleLock.com.
Wounded Warrior Project helps post 9/11 veterans realize what's possible. With generous community support, we bring warriors together and empower them to become stronger inside and out.
It's possible to begin healing, to get the help you need, to find peace.
And as each warrior's needs evolve, so do we. Because these last 20 years are just the beginning.
Hi, and welcome everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that we have agents standing by right now to answer your legal questions. So if you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, call now. Find out if you have a case and how much is potentially worth. I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin. So Tom, tell everyone watching at home who should call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the studio. Now, as far as who should call in, the answer is anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault should give us a call right now. Agents are standing by to answer any questions you may have and tell you how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. So what kind of calls are we seeing today?
Well, Gina, we're getting calls about all types of accidents, but the most common has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, take that first step and give us a call. We'll answer your questions and you'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. Call now.
We did not know anything that was going on really in Lahaina. We just couldn't get out of our house. We had no running water, no electricity, no nothing. And we got stuck there, and I had no idea what was going on just 2 miles down the road.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, people in Maui getting their first look at the devastation left behind by deadly wildfires. The help heading their way right now as search and rescue efforts continue. Plus, Georgia officials preparing for a potential fourth indictment for former President Donald Trump. We'll have a live report from Fulton County and who's testified so far today.
Smaller growers that haven't been able to keep up at all, mid-sized growers like ourselves, we're struggling to keep everything going.
And citrus farms in Florida facing several hurdles after dealing with 2 hurricanes last year. What production looks like in the state as farmers hope to rebound. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hello and welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz in today for Lauren Magarino. A grand jury in Georgia could deliver a fourth indictment against former President Donald Trump this week for allegedly interfering in the state's 2020 presidential election. The Fulton County panel is hearing testimony today. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years, and she is expected to begin presenting her evidence any time now. Scripps News national political correspondent Abijoy Burnett has been following developments. She joins us now live from outside the courthouse, where she is standing by with our very own Del Walters. All right, guys, go ahead and bring us up to speed. What are you seeing right now?
Well, Veronica, what we thought was going to happen today does not appear to be happening, which is that we thought things were going to move a little slower than they are. But late this afternoon, probably around 3:30, we found out that 2 of the key witnesses who were scheduled to testify tomorrow actually have been summoned to the courthouse, leading some to believe that perhaps we could see indictments as early as this evening, although all bets right now are on tomorrow still. But as they say on Indictment Watch, you never know. Abijoy has been here all day. What are we finding out about the testimony before the grand jury and whether or not we have actually gotten to the point where she is presenting the evidence and then about to ask the grand jury to vote on a true bill?
Well, I think one of the key things that we're seeing, Del, is the fact that we are now receiving reporting that the grand jury has been told to get dinner. So that just means they may possibly be here for quite some time. And you mentioned the fact that things could be moving along much more quickly because some of the witnesses we were anticipating for tomorrow, they're here today. Just about an hour ago, we saw journalist George Chidi walk inside the courthouse, and he was anticipated to be here tomorrow. So the fact that he's here now, and at this late a point in the day, there's a possibility that things are moving forward more quickly. We know that there was a former Georgia state lawmaker who was also here earlier today. She posted something online about this, and we want to show you what she posted on social media about her testimony and really her rebuke of the former president and many of the people who are around the former president. She said, "No individual is above the law, and I will continue to fully cooperate with any legal proceedings seeking the truth and protecting our democracy." Now, as you can imagine, the former president, he's talking about this quite a bit. Many of the people around him are really galvanized about this, especially because there was what appeared to be a leak of potential charges
And I want to
earlier
back
today.
you up before we get to that, because George Chidi, we just talked about him.
Yeah.
He's the former journalist, and the reason that he is so important in this case is he speaks to the issue of whether or not they were trying to hide something. He says that he came in, he saw the fake electors, the alleged fake electors, and they told him what?
Exactly. So he was inside a government building and they tried to push him out of that room once he came upon those alleged fake electors. And so that pointed to an organized effort to get people here in the state of Georgia to cast their votes for the then president, Donald Trump, instead of the president-elect, Joe Biden. And so this is the heart of what is happening here in this Fulton County courthouse, what they're investigating.
And the former Lieutenant Governor, Jeff Duncan, you were talking about him being summoned. He is perhaps the most outspoken on everything that has happened. He says that this was a full-scale assault on democracy, a full-scale assault on the voters here in Georgia. He's been very outspoken. If you have a closer before a grand jury, it would probably be the Lieutenant Governor, Jeff Duncan, and somewhat of a threat from the former president with regards to Jeff Duncan.
Absolutely, and that is perhaps why you're seeing the former president go after Jeff Duncan on social media, calling him a failed politician, because this is someone who was elected statewide here in Georgia, and even though he's a former lieutenant governor, he has that clout. And so you're absolutely right about that, waiting to see if he has anything to say after his testimony in front of the grand jury.
And Veronica, two things from the courthouse here that are very important. One is that this is a state case, and that means that the former president, even if he is elected, could not pardon himself. And also, anybody that would be an unindicted co-conspirator would not be able to seek a pardon from anybody running for office right now on the Republican ticket or the former president should he be elected, which raises the possibility that any unindicted co-conspirator would be more than willing to cut a deal. Some of the names being floated around, of course, the former president's top lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and others, including his chief of staff, Mark Meadows.
Exactly. And in that leaked document that we saw earlier, a portion of it said about a dozen charges would be attributed to the former president. But this had well over 24 charges. So that points to the fact that there will, if this is accurate, be more people who are indicted in this case.
Yeah, little local color, by the way. Perhaps you can hear it off camera. The hecklers are here, which means that it is truly a live event on television. I'm noticing that more security seems to be pulling up as well. So the bottom line is we are here, we are waiting, we are watching, and we are standing by just in case DA Fonnie Willis decides that she does indeed want to present that true bill and then announce to the rest of the world that she has indicted the former president of the United States.
Once again.
Veronica?
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because I can definitely hear the noise in the background there. Of course, we see the police cars all around and all the barricades that are up right now. Of course, as Fonnie Willis has asked for more security. What exactly is happening right now? Are there demonstrators? Are there protesters?
No, that's interesting, too, that you would bring that up because there aren't. There are more law enforcement right now in media than there would be demonstrators. The heckler that you're hearing off camera would fit more into the category of a disgruntled person who might perhaps be living on the streets. I think that is the politically correct way of pointing it out.
And he just showed up just before we came on air. So this is the magic of live television. But we also wanted to point out the fact that this is downtown Atlanta. Right. This place clears out after everyone goes home. So everything will die down. But we will be here as we wait to see what the district attorney has for us.
Veronica, one other thing on the issue of security, which is the entire perimeter around here, which includes the State House, the State Capitol building, has also been secured. So it's not just the courthouse, it's not just the Fulton County Courthouse, but it's the entire perimeter that is being secured. But once again, nothing in the way of what you might expect to see on January 6th. Come to Fulton County, Georgia, and go wild. No, nothing that would indicate anything like that.
Something that is really interesting, Del, that I wanted to go ahead and bring up is I am watching the traffic go by. We do see those barricades up there, and it looks as though the courthouse is wide open. So are people able to access the courthouse? Is it open to the public right now?
People are absolutely able to access the courthouse. In fact, that has been an area for us to go in and get a break from the heat down here. So it's business as usual. But we do know that the district attorney asked a few weeks ago that many of the business as usual be cut to a minimum to ensure that people who work in this area are safe. They really took those measures to ensure that if there's an actual indictment, people will be out of harm's way if there's a potential issue.
The street in front of the courthouse itself is closed off. They know most of the journalists. I mean, this is sort of like any other scene that you would arrive on. They know who to look out for and who not to. And one of the things that they always will tell you with regards to the security here is that there is security seen and unseen. So the unseen part might give a little bit more comfort to people that wonder, why does it appear to be so wide open?
Going on, and you can tell people are leaving to go home now. They're walking out of the courthouse with their lunch bags, so it's quitting time for those folks, but of course we're still here.
Yeah, one other thing, Veronica, the grand jury members arrived secure. So it's not like they're going to finish up for the day and simply walk out among everybody and be exposed. They are arriving via police escort, and I'm assuming that they will leave the courthouse the same way they came just this morning.
That's right. Something I know that the district attorney has been asking for herself. Del Walters, Avajoy Burnett, we're going to be circling back with both of you, so please stand by. Thank you so much. Joining me now is criminal attorney Joshua Schiffer. Josh, I know that you've been following these developments closely. I know that you work there in the Fulton County Courthouse half the time. What more can you tell us about what is happening down there and when we can expect an announcement? Could we still receive one today?
Yeah, it has been about as an exciting a day as anybody can remember down in Fulton County. Earlier today, as we were just told, there was this release by the clerk's office, and it listed 39 counts and very clearly had Donald J. Trump at the top of it. It was a docket set summary, and everybody was not expecting that. So everybody grabbed onto it, and the machine started up. Then that story was retracted. The clerk erased that information off of the public record, but it was already out there. Then these witnesses, there were 4 witnesses that we knew because they'd acknowledged their subpoenas publicly were going to be brought in. And that's Bean Nguyen, Jen Jordan, George Cheedy, and Jeff Duncan. However, there are other individuals such as Mr. Gabe Sterling, who is a very highly placed election official that also has been down at the Fulton County Courthouse. And after being told to show up tomorrow, Jeff Duncan and George Cheedy were called in late today. And we don't understand exactly what changed, if anything, whether this was planned or whether this is in response to what appears to be an inadvertent disclosure of this docket summary form. But I do know that Mr. Cheedy and Mr. Duncan right now, or at least about 10 minutes ago, were sitting next to each other in the grand jury assembly area talking about, according to Mr. Cheedy, everything but the actual case. And these are 2 gentlemen that come from very disparate parts of our political universe. Jeff Duncan being the elected lieutenant governor who decided not to pursue his current public service because of Trump, has been very much a post-Trump GOP thought leader as Governor Kemp continues his political career. Meanwhile, George Cheedy, long-established journalist who in the last several years has become one of the leading independent journalists in the state of Georgia.
And you had mentioned that there were 2 other witnesses who entered that courthouse today. What more can you tell us about them, Josh?
Bean Nguyen and Jen Jordan are both elected officials, or were. Jen Jordan ran for Attorney General. Bean Nguyen ran for, Secretary of State, and Bean Nguyen ran, I'm trying to remember exact, but they're well-known politicians, political stakeholders, thought leaders here in Georgia. They were witness to what happened during the discussion over the legitimacy of the election, the so-called fake elector issue that happened in our Georgia State House, which resulted in a meeting, an allegedly secret meeting that George Cheedy then interrupted. And his testimony about the secrecy of that meeting really was the impetus for a lot of the allegations being made specific to Georgia. That's where Rudy Giuliani comes in, because that meeting was predicated based on some of the testimony and information Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and other national Republicans had really brought to Georgia and were leaning on Georgia hard to do something. Georgia is one of the 5 states that, according to other investigations, the Trump candidate, or the Trump campaign, the Trump administration had noted were states that they were going to make a play for in an effort to, depending on who you trust, either steal the election or show how the election had been stolen. This is all moving very quickly. We may see an indictment in a few minutes. We may see an indictment in a few hours, especially since that jury was asked to stay for dinner, or we may not see an indictment until tomorrow. I think DA Willis's plans were interrupted today by somebody, somehow, and things are very much in flux.
All right, good to know that the grand jury was asked to stay for dinner. Let's go ahead and drill down into some of the charges that the former president could be facing here. What are your thoughts, and will we see other charges as well for potential co-defendants?
That's what we're all waiting to hear, is what's the scope and breadth of this investigation. Fani Willis has the ultimate and sole authority to determine what charges she wants to bring. She has the mandate. She is the elected district attorney. She is the highest constitutional charging officer in Fulton County, which is the site, nexus, and venue for these allegations. Everything from the Donald Trump call to Brad Raffensperger urging him to find the 11,000 votes, through the organization of the meetings allegedly put together in order to create an alternate raft of delegates to support Donald Trump if the election was going to be contested. There's a lot of allegations about crime and fraud with that. Then we get into the Coffee County issue. In Coffee County, Georgia, under the auspices and direct orders of some people very highly placed in the Trump organization, the Trump administration, there are strong allegations about malfeasance and fraud related to third-party private organizations coming in, accessing voting machines, sharing information, potentially manipulating information. And then, of course, in all of these multiple issues is the cover-up, the lies. As bad as something is or wasn't, it is more often easy for the state to show fraud and crime in the cover-up, in the response to these allegations, and that lack of candor, that specifically hiding other people's criminal intent and actions and self-preservation, that creates criminal liability for public servants and private individuals. We could see well over 20 people named, and it looks like, according to that initial filing, 39 different charges.
39 different charges. All right, so you've gone ahead and you've laid out some of them, and one that has come up time and time again is racketeering, or a RICO law. Explain to us exactly what this is and how Fani Willis might use it in this case.
Racketeering, and it's for corrupt organizations, and it's actually kind of an old law that was made very much in vogue in the 70s when a young federal prosecutor named Rudy Giuliani in New York resuscitated some of these older laws and used them to attack organized crime. All the big mob cases in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were predicated on federal RICO charges. Racketeering and corrupt organizations is a way of adding additional powers of prosecution for groups or organizations combined in a criminal enterprise, making them all equally responsible and adding tremendous pressure to the witnesses.
And I wanted to circle back, Josh, to something that Ardell Walters was talking about earlier, which is this is different from the other cases that Trump is dealing with right now, because this is a state case. These would be state charges. Take us through what the differences would be and how they could impact the former president.
So there are two separate criminal systems in America: the federal system run by the federal government, with the Department of Justice being the primary prosecuting agency. Then our states each have the ability to retain original jurisdiction on charges not already handled by the federal government. That can include concurrent charges for concurrent frauds, which is why you can face state and federal charges for the same actions. But the state laws are going to be governed by the state laws, the state constitution. States can give you more rights than the federal constitution. States can give you different privileges and defenses. And that's what President Trump is going to face here. Georgia is traditionally a strong pro-prosecution state, and the state version of our RICO laws, not the federal version, we took those and customized them for Georgia. We have made them stronger in some ways than the federal laws. That's going to allow Fani Willis a massive advantage in putting the squeeze on lower level individuals potentially involved in this allegedly fraudulent organization or fraudulent plan. It'll be fascinating to see how she uses that pressure to get evidence against the people higher up in the alleged conspiracy.
All right, criminal defense attorney Joshua Schiffer, thank you so much for your time. Stand by, don't go too far. We're still waiting to see if we see an indictment come from that Fulton County courthouse tonight. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. We're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be right back.
At Lumi deodorant, and I'm going to tell you how to get the best deal on Lumi. It's the starter pack. You pick 2 full-size deodorants and you get 2 mystery items for free and free shipping. So now's your chance to try Lumi whole body deodorant with 72 hours of odor control.
This is Mary Ann's first time visiting Paris. before Marianne packed her bags. Before she attempted her first sentence in French, she downloaded Babbel. So when it came time to tell the cab driver to take her to the Hotel Pierre,
J'aimerais aller à l'Hôtel Pierre.
oh, c'est très bien. Babbel focuses on natural conversation, so you can speak and pronounce with confidence.
Language lessons for every summer adventure. Get 55% off for a limited time at babbel.com/TV.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. And if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just kids, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused kids often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is rescuing and protecting kids during this COVID-19 crisis. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no child is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a homeless child. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show our kids they're loved. Homeless kids are afraid and alone, with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this soft, comforting blanket to show you're helping our kids. Please don't wait. In our national crisis, your gift is the lifeline a child needs. Please call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org now. Thank you for saving precious lives.
Nearly 100 people have died in wildfires on the island of Maui. Experts are worried the death toll could continue to rise further in the coming days. As search and rescue efforts continue right now, hundreds are still missing. The Maui police chief says cadaver dogs have searched only 3% of the affected area. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is saying some ongoing wildfire conditions have been complicating the process of searching for people who remain missing. White House correspondent Haley Bull joins us now live from Washington. She's been following FEMA's efforts in Hawaii for us. So Haley, at least 96 people have died after these fires in Maui. What exactly have FEMA administrators been saying about current recovery efforts right now? How long until we are able to locate the missing? Any updates?
Well, Veronica, they're avoiding putting any specific timeline on this, but as more devastation and loss is uncovered in this process, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell warned of tough days and weeks ahead. Now, she spoke to the White House press corps virtually from Hawaii and detailed the federal response, including more housing and financial assistance. While she didn't give an estimate on the timeline for those search and rescue efforts, she said that they wanted to work quickly, but also be methodical and respectful in the process. Noted the hazardous situation on the ground with partially collapsed structures or the threat for collapse, as well as the hot temperature. Criswell said they have brought in more cadaver dogs, anticipate more search and rescue personnel, and noted more than a dozen federal agencies involved, but believes that they have the right amount of people on the ground at this time. FEMA also announced that they've activated a transitional housing program for those displaced that helps provide shelter in hotels and motels temporarily while residents figure out a longer-term plan for housing. They also announced a critical needs assistance program that can provide up to $700 for immediate needs like food and other supplies. But when it comes to housing, Criswell said they're not taking anything off the table and will get creative, noting the differences in responding to this versus the continental U.S. Listen.
This is going to require every tool that we have in our toolbox. We are not going to be able to rely on all of the traditional programs that we do in the continental United States. And so we are working very closely with the governor to better understand all available options, whether that means longer term we bring in tiny houses or our transitional housing units to help him create the communities that he wants.
Now, Veronica Criswell said that she believes they have the funding for the current response, but will need more money to continue other recovery projects across the country without delay. And last week, the White House sent Congress a request for supplemental funding that included $12 billion for FEMA's Disaster Recovery Fund, which is expected to face shortfalls at the end of the fiscal year. Criswell says they took into consideration events like this when coming up with that request. Now, she has also been keeping the White House and President Biden updated. The White House says President Biden is deeply concerned as they pursue what they frame as a whole of government approach. The president has not spoken on it publicly today, though the White House says we can expect to hear from him still going forward. Veronica.
All right. Haley Bull reporting live from Washington. Haley, thank you. So we all know that it's going to take a significant amount of time and money to help the people of Maui recover. Our parent company, Scripps, is supporting that effort through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen right now in order to donate and help make a difference for the people there. Other news at this hour, gas prices are driving up once again, reaching more than $4 a gallon in nearly a dozen states. AAA saying other states are nearing the $4 mark. The national average is at $3.85 right now, marking the highest price per gallon in 10 months. It's also a 2-cent increase from last week. AAA is saying global supply cuts by Russia and Saudi Arabia are sending oil prices up, while U.S.-based refineries have been struggling with the extreme heat. The 3-month-old writers' strike is continuing to paralyze Hollywood and new film and TV production. The Writers Guild of America now evaluating a counterproposal it received from the Hollywood studios and producers on Friday. Right now, there is no such movement in talks with the Actors Union. Both actors and writers are seeking better pay, improved residual payments, and protections against artificial intelligence. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thanks for being with us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out online. ScripsNews.com is the place. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. We'll be right back.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. And checking your credit score or bank statements may not be enough to alert you. That's because identity threats appear in more places than you realize. Identity thieves can use your information to open loans, transfer home titles, even commit crimes.
Someone stole my information and tried to buy a car in my name.
LifeLock monitors for threats to your identity, including ones you may miss, and alerts you if there's an issue. And if you're a victim, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All plans backed by LifeLock's $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I know LifeLock has me covered.
LifeLock, identity theft protection starts here. Call the number on your screen or visit lifelock.com/25now and use promo code 25now to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. Right now, we're offering 50% off site-wide. The only number that hasn't changed is our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. And if you've never tried Omaha Steaks, save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today. Why wouldn't you want to save 50% on 100% satisfaction? Just a little bargain hunting wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
Why didn't I try medication sooner? I guess I thought my anxiety would just go away. And I didn't know how to get help. Finding Hers changed everything. After a free online intake at forhers.com, a licensed provider got back to me within 24 hours. She prescribed me an FDA-approved medication, and Hers delivered it right to my door. Through the Hers app, I can message my care team anytime, and I get curated content to support my treatment. Now, I finally feel like myself again. Get started today at forhers.com.
Let's get you up to date right now on some of our top stories. 6 former Mississippi law enforcement officers pleaded guilty in state court today for torturing 2 black men in a racist assault back in January. Prosecutors say some of the white officers called themselves the, quote, goon squad because of their willingness to use excessive force. They entered a house without a warrant and attacked the 2 men for 90 minutes with stun guns and other objects. The group admitted their guilt in a separate federal civil rights case. 96 people have died in wildfires on Maui. Those fires are now around 85% contained. Search and rescue efforts are underway right now as hundreds remain missing. Our parent company Scripps is supporting recovery efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen right there in order to donate. Help make a difference for the people. Welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz in for Lauren Magarino. Right now, all eyes remain on Fulton County, Georgia, where a 4th indictment could be imminent for former President Donald Trump. We're looking at live pictures right here. It's for Trump's alleged interference in the state's 2020 presidential election. Witnesses returned to the courthouse today for testimony. DA Fani Willis has been investigating the case now for more than 2 years, and she's expected to begin presenting her evidence anytime now. Let's head live to downtown Atlanta, where our Del Walters and Avajoy Burnett have been following the latest developments for us. So, Del, earlier we were speaking with our legal analyst Joshua Schiffer, who said that the grand jury has been asked to stay through dinner. What are you hearing right now?
I'll let Avajoy take that up in a minute, but yes, once again, where have you heard this story before? We're on indictment watch here at the Fulton County, Georgia courthouse in Fulton County. The reason being, everyone thought that things were going to proceed tonight and then perhaps indictments tomorrow. But late this afternoon around 3:30, we found out that 2 of the key witnesses in this case were summoned back early, which means that they could be testifying before that grand jury even as we speak, which would indicate the possibility that a true bill could be handed out this afternoon. And then late today, there was a leaked document that would seem to indicate that perhaps they are about to charge the former president. And if that document is any indication, he believes that he is about to be charged. His reaction.
And he has been speaking quite a bit about this on social media, about this leaked document that has since been recanted. There is an organization that put this out, a news organization, a reputable one at that.
Right.
And they quickly came back and said, this is not the case, it's not accurate. But of course, we are now seeing fundraising from the former president's team about this, using this as a method to attack what is happening here in Fulton County. This investigation that has been going on for months now, a little bit over 2 years.
Right.
And so in this particular document that the clerk's office here is saying is a clerical error and that it's a false document, we see charges such as conspiracy, making false statements. And if any of this sounds familiar, it's
right.
because these are things that we've seen in the January 6th case as well. And so this is something, I want to pull something up on the screen for you just to give you an indication of how quickly the Trump team is really pouncing on this error. And they sent something out today from an attorney for the former president, Donald Trump, and it reads in part, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office has once again shown that they have no respect for the integrity of the grand jury process. This was not a simple administrative mistake. A proposed indictment should only be in the hands of the District Attorney's Office. Yet, it somehow made its way to the clerk's office and was assigned a case number and a judge before the grand jury even deliberated. And so if we see an identical indictment that looks like that leaked document,
say it was leaked.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that gives them something else to talk about, really, about a process that they believe has been a corrupt process.
But the bottom line, Veronica, is one of the reasons that the former president is being so aggressive in this case is because it is a RICO investigation, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, a statute that dates back to the 1970s, primarily used to target organized crime. But Fulton County in Georgia has a much more aggressive RICO statute that allows them to expand their coverage, if you will. That could include events that took place in other jurisdictions. We've already seen fake elector schemes in Michigan being alleged, also Arizona being alleged, Pennsylvania. So if that is the case, the people that would be charged here could not be pardoned by the former president should he win re-election. Also, any unindicted co-conspirators here, should they become indicted, could not seek a presidential pardon either because it is a state charge. Very, very concerned about the issue of RICO.
Very different, and that is perhaps why we are seeing the former president really go after the district attorney here. He has a signature name calling. He's put something out on social media calling her phony Fani Willis. And the reason that this is really, like you mentioned, become such a problem if there's an actual indictment here is because he will not be able to pardon himself. He won't be able to appoint an attorney general who's able to pardon him or get rid of the cases. Because of our system of federalism, the state officials here will have the continued authority if there is an actual indictment here. And you mentioned other jurisdictions. We've been reading things about Coffee County, and that is a question that I had. I actually called a legal expert about this. How is it that the Fulton County District Attorney is able to reach over into another possible jurisdiction to have an investigation that's ongoing? And they explained to me that if it has anything to do with her jurisdiction, she has the right to do so. And there was new reporting that came out today, Dal, that there are people who are tied directly to the former president, who their emails that are saying they breached voting systems in Coffee County. If that is proven to be true, that is significant.
Yeah, two things, by the way. We did not forget the fact that you did raise the possibility that we could be here throughout the evening, and I'll let Avajoy talk to that in just a moment. But remember, this all began with that infamous phone call. Find me those 11,780 votes. Gee, fellas, that's all I need. That's one more than it would have taken for him to overcome Joe Biden. But the truth of the matter is the margin of victory in Georgia was more than 11,780 votes. There were audits done, there were re-audits done, and that percentage never really changed. Now, to the issue of how long we could be here tonight.
So we saw journalist George Cheedy. He walked in probably about 2 hours ago, and we were anticipating that he would be here tomorrow. I was quite surprised to see him going in that late. And so if he's still inside the courthouse because we didn't see a public exit like we saw a public entrance, he could still be in there speaking with the grand jury. And you mentioned the fact that grand jurors have been told to get dinner, so they really could be in for quite a long evening. We just have to wait and see. You know, something that's really interesting about juries and grand juries, I've been told by people who've tried cases, people who are in the position of the district attorney, that these people who are regular citizens, they really take their duty very seriously. So you're possibly not going to have people in there who want to rush the process. They want to ensure that they're looking at all the details. Even though we have this leaked document here today, a potential leaked document, these people who are regular citizens, they really want to take the job of looking over this evidence very seriously.
Veronica, the issue of security you brought up earlier, not so much a concern right now, even though the entire perimeter of the courthouse is sealed off, because the former president is not here. The security issue would be raised more if and when he is called to be arraigned, should he be indicted. That is when we could possibly see the possibility that things could go wild, as was happened the case on January 6th in Washington, D.C. But so far, nothing to indicate that, other than the heckler over to the right who said that basically if I paid him $30, he'd be quiet for the entire time. He says this, after all, is a capitalistic society, and he is out here trying to make money.
Maybe add another $10.
Minutes now.
Del, maybe give him 40 and see what happens. Avajoy, I wanted to ask you though.
We're in a totalitarian state.
Avajoy, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the DA in this case, Fani Willis. You were talking about Trump and what he's been saying on social media. You had talked a little bit about how he's been calling the DA in this case phony Fani Willis. And she herself has been asking for more security around the courthouse, more security for the grand jurors. What more can you tell us about security efforts there, what you're seeing right now? You guys were just talking moments ago, and I saw more police cars driving up the road.
Yeah, I don't feel unsafe here, but to add to your point, more security for her staff as well. We know that in the first 3 weeks of this month, she asked for her staff members to work virtually. She didn't want for them to be out and about in this area. She also asked officials in the courthouse to move many of their business to other dates and time. We have been watching and waiting, but we know that there is a window where this could potentially happen, and this window ends this Friday. I believe that's the 18th. She has the ability to extend it, but it's something that we've been talking about for quite some time now, where she has spoken with the sheriff's office here. She's given them directives, and that's what started all of this. That's what started the barriers going up. That's what got us here, because we got that reading of the tea leaves, per se. So she has the ability to extend this time period, but we just have to wait to see what happens. Just to kind of echo what you're saying, she has been very cautious about her staff members. There were some things that came down last week, Del, where she and she also told her staff members, I don't want for you to defend me. I want to ensure that you are safe. And so she seems to be very protective of her staff members. One key thing that I'm curious to see is if we will be seeing the names of those grand jurors.
Veronica, one other thing to point out, which is that a lot of people say, well, if they have presented this to a grand jury, and now they're presenting it to the grand jury again, why do they keep having to hear testimony from witnesses? In Georgia, there is a grand jury that is somewhat of a fact-finding grand jury. That is the one that met long ago. And then it said that it basically believed that there was a case that could go forward. Now she is presenting it to a grand jury that can indeed issue indictments. And the witnesses that are being called, Jeff Duncan and George Cheedy, the journalist, they've been here before. So if anything, they would almost be like a cleanup picture if there were any questions, because in a grand jury, grand jurors can ask questions themselves. So she's basically covering all the bases before she would issue an indictment, if that is indeed the case.
Yeah, so that's the difference between a special grand jury. They do the investigative portion. They have the ability to subpoena. They have the ability to reach further into certain areas where she might have limitations, and then we just have a regular grand jury here. And just to give you an idea of the makeup of this, they could potentially have 23 people. If there's an actual vote, they just need a majority of those people to say, yes, there should be charges, there should be an indictment.
Could not have said it better myself. Veronica?
So, Ava Joy, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the judge in this case. We've talked about the district attorney, Fani Willis. Judge Robert McBurney, what do we know about McBurney and how he might be presiding over this case, or if he will be presiding over this case?
We have to wait to see everything there, but that's a great question, because this particular judge, we know that the Trump team had a move to disqualify him in a certain case, and that's still working throughout the legal process. There's so many things that are going on with the Trump team, it's really hard to keep track of it all. We also know that the Trump team moved to disqualify the findings of the special grand jury, along with the district attorney here, Fani Willis, and that they ran into roadblocks with that as well. So we just have to wait to see. It's kind of one step at a time. Let's see what happens with the indictment, and then let's see who would be in as the judge here in this case. Of course, that is major. We've seen it in Florida with Judge Cannon.
Right. And yes, recently with the judge in New York, who spoke out today and said he is not going to step aside from the case because he sees no conflict, even though the Trump team has asked for him to step aside. But Veronica, one of the things about the judges, they're going to challenge everything, including what the judge, what the DA, what everybody had for lunch. That is just the nature of how this is going to proceed. And it bears pointing out what is about to go down, should it happen, would be an indictment of the former president of the United States in a state court. So it's not just a trial involving a former president. It is a trial that pits states' rights against the rights of a defendant in the federal system at a time when he may have been acting as the president of the United States. So a lot at stake here in Fulton County, Georgia.
That's right. So much of this is unprecedented. Ava Joy Burnett and Del Walters in downtown Atlanta outside of the Fulton County Courthouse. Thanks so much, guys. I'll be checking back in with you. We're going to have much more news for you right after a quick break. But first, quick reminder right here. We'd love to hear from you. You can always give us a call on our Scripps News Viewer hotline. That number is on your screen right now. You can give us a call toll free. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
I used to think all doctors were the same. Then I switched to Oak Street Health. You see, this isn't your typical doctor's office. Instead of waiting around for me to get sick, they focus on keeping me healthy and feeling good. Hey, still got it.
Zion, no sugar, right?
And the best part, everyone at Oak Street Health is experienced with people my age.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you with a focus on keeping you healthy. So don't wait. Call today.
Zion, we're ready for you.
Here people get to know me the old-fashioned way.
By listening.
This guy takes all the notes, so my doctor is all eyes on me, and I'm never rushed out.
Ready to go?
We get to know you better with longer appointment times, including same-day and next-day appointments.
Everyone gets their own personal care team. And whether it's doctors, nurses, social workers, mental health support, even someone to help me understand my Medicare benefits, they all work together for me, myself, and I. Not to mention a 24/7 patient support line.
We customized a plan for him, and we can do the same for you.
Getting the care you need has never been easier because our team members work together to handle all your healthcare needs.
And you get all this with no extra cost. They even gather all your medical records and health history. So switching to their doctors is easy. And you can keep living your life your way.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you. Call 800-967-2157 to schedule a visit and see why we are the only primary care provider to carry the AARP name. Oak Street Health.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
I wish I had this in my 20s. Chibula Active Serum from True Botanicals prevents 5 signs of aging before they happen. You have to try this. I promise it is 100% worth it.
Go to truebotanicals.com for 2 free gifts. Limited time offer.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
So NASA and NOAA scientists are saying that the Earth is heating up. Experts say temperatures recorded in July 2023 shattered heat records set in July 2019 by 0.2 degrees Celsius. NOAA's chief scientist says last month could mark the hottest month of any year since at least 1850, and it's a trend that is not slowing down.
A year like this gives us a glimpse into how rising temperatures and heavier rains can impact our society and stress critical infrastructure over the next decade. It's important to remember that these years will be cool by comparison by the middle of the century if we continue to warm our planet as greenhouse gas emissions continue. Put another way, the next few years will be the coolest for the rest of my life if the world continues to emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
So Florida may be known as the orange state, but the citrus industry is coming off its worst season in nearly a century. An ongoing crisis called citrus greening disease continues to impact crop yields, but the industry may have found its silver bullet. Andrew Shipley with Scripps News Fort Myers has the details.
A lot of groves lost anywhere between 60, 70, 80% of their fruit from the event of the hurricane.
95%, nearly all of the orange groves in Florida were impacted by Hurricane Ian in one way or another, explained Tamiami Citrus CFO Ron Mayhem. Ian just piling onto problems growers have had to overcome in recent years, he said.
Smaller growers that haven't been able to keep up at all, mid-sized growers like ourselves, we're struggling to keep everything going.
Like greening disease, a bacteria that can reduce production or even kill a grove.
Well-producing grove could produce 300 to 400 boxes the acre. With greening, we were at 200, 210, 250 boxes the acre. If you could get in at that level, you're barely making money at all.
But Mayhem says the industry may have found a solution that actually works. New microbial injections into the trees help fight the autoimmune response that occurs from the greening disease bacteria.
So if you get your production level back up to that 300 plus boxes the acre, it's profitable and you're able to create meaningful levels of production.
But there's one problem.
It's expensive, both in terms of labor as well as the product.
Not only growers dealing with reduced production, they're also patiently waiting for promised disaster aid from the federal government. While FDA has the money ready to distribute, how we'll get it to growers hasn't passed.
It really depends, I think, a lot on getting that disaster relief out to help us keep the groves going and get them back into production.
As for this year's crop,
we have a reasonable crop that's out there on the trees. If we're able to keep it on the trees and get it harvested, assuming there's no hurricane, we should have a crop that certainly would be bigger than last year because of the hurricane impacts. And it should get us on our road to recovery.
The citrus industry will get an estimate on production in late August, early September, with harvest in the fall. But growers won't likely see revenue from that crop until the winter months.
It's Andrew Shipley reporting for us from Scripps News, Fort Myers, Florida. All right, here is what is coming up next on Scripps News Live. Celebrating diversity in dance. One mother's search for the right place for her daughter led her to create a successful dance studio celebrating diversity, how it's been helping students find their passion. That's straight ahead. And we'd like to remind you to follow us online at scripsnews.com, also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. We'll be right back.
Female hair thinning is so common. That's where hers comes in. You can take their free hair quiz, provide some info about your health history, and a medical provider can recommend a personalized treatment plan just for you. Take the hair quiz today at forhers.com.
Nothing is more important than family. A family you're born into, a family you choose, or a family you make. I'm Padma Lakshmi. I came to this country when I was 4 years old with my mother. We came here because it was a land of opportunity. But for many, that's not the case.
Porque primero me separaron de mi mamá y de ahí de mi hermano.
Immigrant families are being separated. Black and brown families are torn apart by a broken legal system. LGBTQ people suffer discrimination in adoption and healthcare. The need to protect and defend the civil liberties we all hold dear is more urgent than ever because families belong together. You can help by joining the American Civil Liberties Union today.
Call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day.
The ACLU has fought to allow LGBTQ couples to marry, for racial justice, to stop family separation. We can't do this work without you. Together, we can defend our democracy, ensure liberty and justice for all, and keep families strong.
So please, call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special member kit to show you're part of a movement to defend free speech, protect our civil liberties, and keep families together.
I hope you'll join me in supporting the ACLU today, because we, the people, means all of us.
Call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today. breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive
with up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, coming up next, only on Scripps News.
All right, check this out. Right now, we are learning more about the most distant star ever detected. Earendel is about 28 billion light years away, and it's 1 million times brighter than the sun and about twice as hot. The James Webb Telescope picked up the star's light that dates back to within the first billion years of the universe. Earendel can be found in the Sunrise Arc galaxy. Gorgeous. Now to Virginia, a dance studio there is finding lasting success by offering students a variety of dance styles that reflect their own diversity. As part of National Black Business Month, our Amber Strong shares one mother's goal to find a place for her daughter.
It's been said that dancing is like dreaming for your feet. Well, this Virginia dance school is making those dreams reality and taking students from diverse backgrounds to some of the biggest stages in the country.
In this practice room, there's ballet and contemporary, a little bit of breaking, and a lot of encouragement. The dancers as diverse as the styles. Founder Kalia Harris started the Ambiance Center for the Performing Arts after finding little diversity in area schools for her daughter Naya.
She started it so that I could see myself and have a place in the arts that was like all my own. When I was visiting places, they were saying, well, you know, people of color just don't put their children into, you know, extracurricular activities and things. And so I was like, I just don't think that's true.
10 years later, enrollment is up to 200 students, mostly through word of mouth.
This is a place where, you know, students of all different shapes and sizes and colors and genders can come and just be accepted and be safe.
Misty Copeland, the first principal ballerina in the history of the American Ballet Theater, has lamented the lack of diversity.
It weighs on you and it wears on you after a while. Something that I fought so hard for throughout the beginning of my career is that I didn't want to pancake my skin a lighter color to fit into the corps de ballet.
It's not just a lack of representation, it's the standards that some in the dance world say aren't inclusive.
Each of our dancers, no matter what their skin tone is, will find tights that will match their skin tone. When ballet was formed, it was not formed with us in mind, people of color, and so we have pink tights.
And while every style is welcomed, fundamentals are a requirement.
Tap, a little struggle, but I got into it. But ballet and contemporary, oh no, man.
It's one of those dance studios where it's not competitive at all. You do your dancing, I do mine.
Harris says she wants her students to love themselves, but also to be able to succeed on any stage in the world. And they have, with some going on to perform at the Kennedy Center and for legendary choreographer Debbie Allen. She also gives away dozens of scholarships to area kids yearly.
After COVID, I have personally seen more than ever that our children are hurting. So my heart is to be able to give back to the community.
Saying at the end of the day, it's about giving every child a sense of belonging.
I know that I'm just a dancer and I'm not carrying the responsibility of being the only Black dancer in the room.
Amber Strong, Scripps News, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
And I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for your time today. The news continues right here on Scripps News. We're following all of the very latest out of the Fulton County Courthouse in Georgia as an indictment into the election interference case involving former President Trump could be handed down at any moment. Make sure you check us out online for the very latest also, scripsnews.com. And of course, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way. Stay tuned because the debrief is up next.